recording. So we got a message through from one of the members of our private Facebook group, Your Fresh Start Family, and we just wanted to respond with a little video for that person, which is going to be relevant for pretty much everyone, I guess. We're not quite sure where we're going, but Owen hasn't heard the question yet, so here's the question. So this is from Brianna. The last few days I've been having a really hard time staying in the day. My wedding is in September and we're slowly getting things organised for that, but my mum has terminal cancer. She was in the hospice and for a few weeks, but luckily she was strong enough to go home last week. It's still debatable whether she will make it to the wedding. My mind is constantly in the future and the what ifs and finding it hard to concentrate on anything. I'd like to be able to stay in the day and not get caught up in the things I can't control. I don't want to be so sad about what might happen before I need to be.
Wow.
Yeah, so thanks for that, Brianna.
That's a biggie, isn't it?
It is. It's a really big, difficult challenging situation to be in.
Yeah.
So you haven't read that question before. I had read it, so I've had a little bit of time to ponder it.
That means you go first.
No, I haven't formulated any particular response. So just with these videos, we just like to kind of go with the flow and see what comes up. A bit like the way we're going to be working together at the end of June in Dublin and at the beginning of August in Belfast, when we're holding an evening together. So we just kind of go with the flow.
Yeah.
So what was the first thing that came to you?
Well, I thought it was very good the way that Brianna said that she noticed that her mind was constantly going to the future.
Yeah.
So she already has that capacity to notice that her mind just projects into a possible future, which for her is quite a sad future. And I suppose for most people we don't recognise that that's actually what's happening. It's just my mind is going into the future. So that's a great start. Yeah. She's aware of that. It kind of makes it more difficult for us because usually we can talk about that and then see can we kind of pull back to the present moment. But she mentioned also that she's having difficulty staying in the present moment in each day. So yeah, it's a biggie. I don't know what you came up with.
Well, I always sort of, my tendency is to relate things back to my own personal experience, and having lived with a dad who had dementia for 7 or 8 years and having cared for him and the inevitability of his death, I remember going over and visiting him and spending time with him in the nursing home in the last year and just being very, very present for him as I was maybe massaging his feet or whatever. And it's really, for me, it's about coming right back into the here and now. So at the moment, Brianna, your mum is alive. At the moment, you're getting married in September, which is a very joyful experience.
Yeah.
There's probably a lot to be done between now and then, but at the end of the day, it is a very joyful moment in your life. And so it's really, I suppose, about the methods of actually how you keep staying here and now.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, while you're talking there, I was aware that really we're talking about kind of life here. This is like a microcosm because there's the bitter and there's the sweet.
Yeah.
And so the sweet is the fact that she's getting married, and the bitter is the fact that her mum is dying. And the ability to kind of embrace both polarities really is, I think, what we're talking about. And that's a challenge for most people because we like to gravitate towards the sweet. Mm-hmm. And we tend to, in a sense, kind of reject the bitter. Yeah. But yet the rejection itself makes it even more bitter. So I'm guessing that for anybody, including Brianna, to really move into an acceptance of the fact that, number one, yes, your mother is dying. That would bring a lot of emotion. But also, I think, if we went into kind of the Buddhist teaching around meditating on death, it's easy to recognize that actually we're all dying. Mm-hmm. And that, for instance, this body here, for whatever reason, might not be on this planet in 24-hour time. I don't know. We're all dying. And to meditate on that maybe might bring some level of acceptance. Because ultimately my sense is, and we could be totally wrong here, Brianna, but my sense is that what the mind is doing is almost kind of resisting accepting that this is actually a reality. Now it's not a reality that your mum won't be around on the day of your wedding. The reality may be that she actually is present on the day of your wedding. The only reality you can accept is that, yes, your mum is dying. And maybe moving into an acceptance of that, quite strongly maybe for a few days, then might mean that all the days after that, up until the time of your wedding, you're in a place of deep acceptance. And when we're in acceptance of death, we recognise there's a lot of aliveness in every single day. So you're not going forward anymore, you're not worrying about it, you've accepted it. So that might be somewhere to look at.
Well, the other thing that just struck me as you were talking there, I just want to double check that I've got my wording right, was I'd like to be able to stay in the day and not get caught up in the things I can't control.
Right.
Now, from one control freak to another, no, I'm not saying you're a control freak, Brianna, but our egos have this innate desire to control situations. And obviously you're planning this wedding, you want it to be the perfect day, you want everything to be exactly the way you want it, you want your family to be there, you want your friends to have a great time. And this is the one thing that you can't control. You don't know if your mum's going to be there or not. So it sounds to me as if your ego is grappling with that uncertainty and that need to control a situation, which is actually out of your control now. This has come up for me very recently, and I received some really great insight into it for myself. That what I was struggling with was the messiness of the situation.
Yeah,
it's just messy. It's not the way I want it to be, and I actually don't have within my capacity the ability to put order on a particular situation. So what I've been breathing into over the last few weeks is just being okay. Can I be okay with the messiness? Now, I'm not very good with chaos and mess, as Owen knows.
I do.
So that's actually, it's a challenge for me. But my spiritual teacher, Miranda McPherson, one of her phrases that she uses a lot is, "What's in the way is the way. What's in the way is the way." And so to look at this situation as a way for you to dive deeper into your own control structures, your ego structures around that need to control and the need to have things in a certain way, is a real spiritual practice. This is it, and this is so much of what we work with is bringing these spiritual practices integrating them into everyday life. It's not about sitting on top of a mountain meditating 24 hours a day. I mean, that would be easy. The challenge that we all face is, how do we live here on this physical plane and still retain some element of spirituality and peace.
It is. But I suppose, most of us human beings, when we know something bad, we say, is looming, we all have that kind of propensity to go there, first of all.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was in business, one of the things that I was taught about being self-employed was, I was quite young at the time, but somebody said to me, okay, what is the worst that can happen if you go self-employed? You have 3 young children and so on. And I said, well, the worst that can happen is the business doesn't function very well. And he said, then what? I said, well then, I won't have any money. And he said, then what? And he kept going down to then what? And eventually we landed in a place where I realised I live in a world, I lived in Dublin at the time, where I'd be looked after. The worst case scenario was that possibly I mightn't be able to pay the mortgage, I might not be able to have enough money to keep the 2 cars going and so on. And eventually got down to the very worst case scenario was that, okay, the worst that can happen is this. And when I accepted that, and for me that was signing on and all of that, which was a big challenge to my ego, it's not comparable to somebody dying, but the point is that you're going to the worst case scenario. And when I accepted that, okay, so that's the worst that can happen, and I've accepted that, it gave me a great freedom. My mind wasn't so busy worrying. So in a similar way, it's a similar concept to accepting death, and the real deep acceptance of it, and then the mind isn't so busy trying to control it or worry about it. It's like, okay, I've taken it further than the head, I've taken it into my heart, I've accepted it. I know watching Jenny when we were caring for Michael, her dad, Jenny was doing her grieving kind of on the way. And there was real acceptance in you that this was about to happen at some point. And actually in a very strange way, when that point did arrive, I mean,
it was so peaceful.
It was so peaceful. And because it was a deep acceptance of it, actually it turned into a very beautiful experience. You know, that's not necessarily what happens for everybody, but I think accepting the reality of the situation, you know, at some level will certainly help.
And I guess in Brianna's situation, it's maybe not the acceptance of the fact, well, it might be the acceptance of the fact that mum's dying, but also then the acceptance of the fact that mum may not be at your wedding. You know, that's it.
The worst. Yeah, that's true.
So what can you take yourself there, Brianna? Can you take yourself into that situation? That worst case scenario, okay, mum's not able to get to the wedding, either because she's ill and can't travel, or because she's died. So maybe allow yourself to go into that and what I feel. I mean, yes, there's probably, I don't know, I'm not going to project my feelings onto it, but you know, allow yourself to feel whatever that's about. And could you cope with that? You know, would you survive that? Would you be able to cope with that? Would you still be able to find some sweetness in your day? Which I'm sure you would, because there'll be many, many other blessings there, even if mum's not there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I suppose what's coming to me just before we finish up is really the serenity prayer.
Yeah.
Which I always get mixed up, but it goes along the lines of God grant me the
acceptance.
No, the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. So you can't change the fact that mum's dying. The courage to change the things that I can,
and the wisdom
to know the difference. So you can't change the fact that mum's dying. You can't change the fact that mum may or may not be at your wedding. But maybe you can find the serenity to accept the not knowing, the messiness of the situation, the grief, and the loss that's coming.
Yeah, because ultimately, you know, what actually happened for most people is because the emotional world is not something that we're all very used to kind of diving into. We go up into the head and we go into those stories over and over and over again, and it's slightly easier to stay in the story. You know, but then of course when the thing does happen, there's a lot of emotion. So the suggestion is don't go into the story so much, because that's feeding something. You know, go into the emotion, like we said, go into the acceptance, and really there's nothing to be afraid of. You know, emotion is there, and so, you know, a gentle acceptance of the fact, okay, there is emotion there, and breathing into it and being okay with it, I would think would take the energy away from the head, which wants to go forward, as you say, control the messiness, whatever it might be, you know. And that's, yeah, it's almost like kind of a redirecting of the energy. Instead of going up into the head, it's like, okay, into the heart, and just see what needs to be felt. And we're not saying that that's something that everybody finds easy, but ultimately, if you really deeply feel an emotion, it passes, and suddenly you land in a different place.
Yeah, and the reality is that right here, right now, which is the bit that you're struggling with a little bit, right here, right now, mum is alive. You are getting married in September to the man of your dreams. You're going to have a joyful day. You know, right here, right now, nothing has changed. You know, so just keep going back to what's true right here, right now. And sometimes that could be just as simple as sitting on chair, breathing, birds singing, flowers blooming, breeze blowing in, just as simple as that. What's true right here, right now.
Yeah, and if you could stay in that moment. I was listening to, I think it was Rinpoche this morning, and he was saying that what happens is the head goes somewhere that's not here, you know, and so the head is somewhere where the body isn't, and he said that causes a lot of suffering, you know. So the idea is, okay, can I bring my head into the place where the body is, which is the present moment. And if you can do that, there's no suffering.
I hope that helps, Brianna.
Yeah, I hope so.
We're sending you lots of love, and your family. We know you and your sister, and we're sending you lots and lots of love. And to anybody else who's struggling at the moment with whatever they're struggling with. So I hope this has helped. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel so we can keep you updated with future videos. And have a great day. Namaste.
Namaste.